Okay, we're going to deal with the next step or the next um, competency in um, the next lesson, I suppose. And again, we're going through each one. We just went through before was collaboration, and the next one is knowledge construction. And I think it's important here that when you're talking about knowledge construction as what we're doing, or what the next lesson or the 21st century learner should do is that's the key, is that the word construction. It's not just knowledge acquisition. It's not just knowledge retention, it's construction, it's constructing knowledge. So let's just take a look at it. So knowledge construction is required. That's the point, is that they're not just memorizing stuff, it's that they have to, um, and it's not making something up. That's not the point. I mean, that's not what it's about, right? And some people get confused about that, thinking that they're, like making up a fiction story. That's not what it is. It's the idea of constructing a knowledge set for themselves based on some facts and based on some understanding. Um, Knowledge construction is the main requirement. Oftentimes, you'll have lessons where knowledge construction may be an offshoot, or maybe an offspring of a lesson, but it wasn't intended. The point, and really, this is really the point of the whole of Project Next, of the next lesson entirely, is that when you as teacher are creating a lesson, that it's purposeful, it's direct, it's what you meant to do at the beginning. So it's very overt. The next one is it's an application of constructed knowledge. So it's not enough to just say you've constructed an understanding and knowledge of this, but you have to apply it in some way or another, um, to solving a problem, to a creation, those sorts of things. And the other one is to have this interdisciplinary work. I mean, the this is a true belief of mine, is that really no knowledge exists in a vacuum, and I think this is where secondary schools fall short. And I know there's a lot of problems with scheduling and curriculum is lined out this way, which is unfortunate. But the truth of the matter is that to really understand a subject, to really understand a thing, to really understand a person, you have to look at it from many different angles, and understand it in the construct of its reality, which is very interdisciplinary. So let's take a look at the spectrum of comfort here. So here's those questions again. If you ask yourself one question at a time, you can't skip. You ask them one question at a time, and then if your answer is yes, you move down. So does the activity require students to create knowledge, or adapt and then evaluate prior knowledge? So here's the deal, is either they're creating knowledge, or they're adapting and evaluating prior knowledge. So here's that TOK question, right? How do we know? Why is that big question? Why? So it's, there might be some memorization, there might be some understanding here, but it's to evaluate it, and then to adapt it and move it into something new. And so this is huge. This is a really tough one. That's entry level. So if you can say yes to that, if you say no, and I would argue that a lot of the stuff that I did when I was teaching wouldn't have even got past entry level, to be honest with you. So it's to require students to create knowledge or adapt and evaluate. The next one is really just an extension of that. Is the main requirement the creation of knowledge? So not just that the activity requires it at some point, but is the main requirement that idea, that creation of knowledge? And it's not just this is the difference between being spoon-fed something and discovering it. So you could teach the students, the I don't even know an example of this. You could teach a student, how to construct a piece of, something in shop. Let's just say we're taking something very, very physical. I'm looking at my tool bench right now. Um, you could show them step by step how to create, or you could give them the problem. And if they create, here's how I do it. Here's my step by step procedure. Here's how I would solve that problem. They're creating and constructing that knowledge. And so that's the main requirement. That's the whole point. It's not so that they, and here's the difference. It's not so that they know how to do something. It's that they know how to approach the problem of doing it. Because they might tweak it and find a better way. And they might then do some research and find out, oh, there's a way better way to answer that question or to solve that problem. But if they're engaged in the activity of creating that knowledge, that's the whole point of this. And then here we are. Are students required to use, and here's the key word, to use that knowledge to influence change in a new context? Are they going to do something with it? And that's where you get into this adaptive level, and you're moving into an infusion level. Is sure, they know how to do something, but what are they going to do with it? Are they actually going to do something? Are they going to do some sort of context, some sort of a change? And then to really be able to make sure that that's fruitful and useful, and um, even if you want to go so far as to say legitimate, is the learning activity interdisciplinary? And that's your last step there. Meaning, do they approach from many different angles? Is there an interdisciplinary element to that? This can be a tough one for a secondary school uh, structure that's set up in such departmental setups, which I think is a huge flaw. So looking for ways to make things interdisciplinary, looking for ways to bring in other things, looking for ways possibly with your teacher colleagues to approach a theme, a grade, a book, a whatever from an interdisciplinary point of view is the challenge here. And that's where you're at that transformative level. That's transformational. This is a tough one. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. Knowledge construction. Oops, let me go back there. Knowledge construction is one of the tougher ones because really you're starting. This is not a normal lesson for a lot of people. This is not the normal. Does the activity require students to create or adapt and evaluate prior knowledge? It's a tough one just to start, and then to get down to interdisciplinary. This is a big one, but one I think that is incredibly important because there are so many problems that don't even exist yet. That's the big deal, is that students are going to be asked to solve problems that don't exist yet. So we can't teach them the formula. We can't teach them the algorithm. We can't teach them the steps to solve the problem because we don't even know what the problem is. What we need to do is to teach them the skill of knowledge construction, the skill of being able to assess your own strengths, your own abilities, your own resources, and figure out the best way to solve that problem. Because, like I said before, we don't even know what the problems are. So we can't teach them the form. We can only teach them the skill. So that's knowledge construction.